These people are in fact better than those that you should outright avoid eye contact with, because they have refused to live around people they in fact hate. They don't live around you, they don't work with you. They're That's why they live in the sticks, to avoid you. The process of threat is this prolonged negative one-way eye contact, aka staring. A facial expression of contempt or disgust, offensive posturing, body language or gestures, direct or passive aggressive remarks, aka dog whistling. Dog whistling is meant to make you feel uncomfortable and allow them to express their hateful, racist, evil, threatening beliefs. They could be talking about, some guy they want to jump and actually talking about you. The process of incrimination. We just spoke of the process of threat. The process of incrimination is as follows: fearful or wary eye contact, a refusal of eye contact, defensive body language and posturing, possibly an unsolicited yelp or cry for help. Sort of like they just sort of like freak out and you're like, oh my God, help me. And you're like, what are you talking about? This technique is most insidious as it can lead one who is unaware to believe he himself is dangerous, untrustworthy, or a criminal. Both the process of threat and incrimination are best fought via reflection and ignoring, as to make the perpetrator look stupid. Turn your cheek and create distance from an old white woman who is clutching her purse and staring at you. There are other processes such as the one of disgust. These other processes, and all processes, are akin to spells. They are meant to change a person's perception of themselves or their environment, thus opening them up to further attack. Do not make eye contact with white people, because you will only receive negative energy, whose purpose is to cast doubt and fear into oneself. The majority of human cultures have conceived of something known as the evil eye. This is essentially a malevolent energy born from envy, which can effectively shoot out of one's eyes at the object of their envy in order to harm them or their destiny. The human being's power to curse comes from the eye. The eye coupled with thoughts and subtle action. Apart from all of what I have said of body language and other nonverbal cues, take into account the supernatural. The water rice experiment, where the thoughts of love or hate could be projected onto jarred and labeled perishables, and those thoughts, visually focused, had an effect on whether substances fermented or rotted.
Dr. Emoto has conducted another interesting experiment. He placed rice into 3 glass beakers and covered it with water. And then every day for a month, he said, "Thank you" to one beaker, "You're an idiot" to the second, and the third one he completely ignored. After 1 month, the rice that had been thanked began to ferment, giving off a strong, pleasant aroma. The rice in the second beaker turned black, and the rice that was ignored began to rot. Dr. Emoto thinks that this experiment provides an important lesson, especially with regard to how we treat children. We should take care of them, give them attention, and converse with them. Indifference does the greatest harm.
Tell some dreamy story, but almost.
Let us remember that Einstein discovered that physically observing an experiment affects the results. Have you ever felt someone looking, but you only turn to see your suspicions confirmed? Clearly, eyesight has power. Therefore, with knowledge of the power of eyesight, combined with thoughts and emotions to be able to project energy upon a subject, a visually observed subject, what do you think the effects, both physical and spiritual, will be of a black person walking through a crowd of Caucasian people? Let us be conservative and say 75% of them hold some sort of prejudice and negative opinions of blacks. Well, they might not be hardcore racist, but maybe they think blacks have lower IQ. Maybe they think blacks are prone to theft. Maybe, and they can't control it. Maybe they think blacks are, naturally made for labor, but overall good people, but they're just made for labor. Things of that nature. What do you think physically and spiritually would happen to that black person walking through that crowd? America is the greatest nation in the world for its surplus of food, military power, and the rights of private citizens to own land and bear firearms. But America is literally a spiritual Chernobyl for people considered black. It would be well advised to not even allow white people to look at you unless you have spiritually protected yourself. This experiment of American diversity has failed. People considered black in the United States need to be in communities where people believe in them and look upon them in a better light, as well as hold them to higher standards of humanity and dignity. As a closing note, I'd like to add this. The processes are not meant to be abused. They are essentially neurophysiological triggers with mental and spiritual effects. If the process of incrimination is used on a young black boy for a number of years, it could lead him either to becoming a criminal.
You would not believe your eyes. You would not believe your eyes. You would not believe your eyes.
Being constantly afraid of hurting someone, or being accused of something, or even hating the actual accusatory party. So he can become a criminal. He can constantly be afraid of being accused. He could hate the party who thinks he's a criminal. So that's the end of the formal report, the formal presentation. Some closing notes are these. These processes of communication, that's what I'm calling them, they are not to be abused. You shouldn't listen to this and say, okay, I objectively know how to make people feel good or bad now. You should use this in a defensive manner to be able to understand when you're not wanted, when you're in danger, or what people are trying to do to you. Because you could be a very successful and good person amongst a group of really low quality people, and they could actually make you feel worse than they are simply by lines of communication. A strong person says, okay, like a strong person without knowing any of this knowledge will instinctively sense the quote unquote bad vibes or the negative energy, and they will retaliate. They will posture, they will send threatening communications back saying, hey, don't mess with me or I'll lash out at you. I'll do something. or they'll be defiant, they'll be resistant, they'll be offensive. A weak person will think that there's something wrong with him. It'll seriously hurt his self-esteem. It'll seriously hurt his or her self-esteem. And there will be physical and spiritual symptoms. A lot of people who are ugly are people who have just been molded by this their whole life. Because God doesn't make people ugly. Ugliness comes from this. Ugliness comes from abuse and self-hatred. It makes you look ugly. Or, cursed genetics. That happens too. Maybe your parents were involved in some weird shit and whatever. But yeah. So the process of lust that's very important, because what I've noticed, and a lot of people, everyone knows about the evil eye, but people don't know about the lustful eye. I've noticed, like, women choose. That's a phrase that we use in millennial slang, Northeastern culture. She choosing. People will probably say that comes from the South or whatever, but she choosing, right? Let me tell you something. There's been so many times I've been confronted with a woman, right, where she has just, like, it's not even like there. I saw the physical body language, eye contact, face. Okay, even her, like, cheeks are getting red or she's blushing. Okay, this girl wants me, right? But there's something more than that. There's something like almost like electromagnetic that like infests your body, and like you can almost feel her heat. Like, when girls get horny, they get hot. Like, you can almost feel her body heat. That's how, and you yourself will get turned on. Like, when she's so turned on by you and she's like looking at you and like in desire and lust, and like she wants you, and all she wants you to do is ask her out, or like say something, or like hit on her, do something, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you will feel that. And it's something spiritual, electromagnetic, because if you don't act on that, you'll go home and you'll be turned on. Like, your lust will be like on 100, right? So, like, it's not always envy. It's not always jealousy. Sometimes it's hatred. Sometimes it's anger. Sometimes it's lust. Sometimes it's pride. Sometimes, they're not envious of you. They're just looking down on you. Before I had known and studied sadism, right? Before I had known and studied sadism, I would walk around a certain city, and I would feel like these people want to like rape me, and then like skin me and wear my skin, and then jerk off in my skin. And then I learned about sadism and like real evil. And then I learned, like, okay, there's people that actually do that. So I felt that coming from the energy of this specific city, right? I travel a lot. I feel different energies in different cities. And some cities love me, some cities hate me, right? But the fact that I felt this, then I came to find out it was real. That's almost there's even a process of revelation. God will give you proof and evidence for something before he reveals it in your life, so you believe it when he does it. So that's what I'm saying. This is the teaching, really, what I've come to understand about processes of communication. That's what I can name it. So I think I'm going to close it. I'm going to end it here. I think that covered a lot. Now you know that pay attention to those looks. Pay attention to the vibe. Pay attention to the vibe. If the vibe is off, get out of there, because your literal spiritual and auric health is being affected. Peace.